Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Introduction to Logic, Deductive, and Inductive Reasoning. We are now at our second week, and our topic for this week is uses of language. For this week, we will differentiate the uses of language, and we will also compare and contrast the uses of language. So let's proceed to our first slide. We have here the fundamental uses of language. So according to Irving M. Copy, he listed three basic functions of language. These are informative, expressive, and directive. So music may be the language of the soul, but the stuff with which we live out our daily existence is words. Our response to others, our loves, hate, indifferences, frustrations, joys, and delights is mainly verbal. Much of contemporary history is witness to the efficacy of dialogue and the conference table in solving problems of modern man. So we have here informative, expressive, and directive. These are the fundamental uses of language. So first, let's discuss informative. What is informative use of language? This is the most common function attested to by textbooks and all other books on history, may it be history, literature, philosophy, science, and many more. So, examples of this textbooks and other books of history that we have is Encyclopedia Britannica, Webster's Dictionary, and so on and so forth. And we also have a History of Philosophy by Frederick Coupleson. So it's a series. So in logic, we see this function at work in propositions, arguments, where something is either affirmed or denied. And this in turn is either true or false, correct, and incorrect. Also, the informative function affirms or denies propositions as in science or the statement of a fact. Informative function is used to describe the world or reason about it. Examples given is whether a state of affairs has occurred or not, or what might have led to it. Also, these sentences have a truth value. That is, the sentences are either true or false. So mainly recognizing, of course, that we might not know what the truth value is. Hence, they are important for logic. So informative is very important for logic, and this is the most common function that we have, and it gives information whether it may be true or false. So we might not know the truth value. So the second fundamental use of language that we have is expressive. So this function is best illustrated in poetry, where emotions and attitudes are expressed beautifully. So we have here um, Elizabeth Barrett Browning's outspoken love lines. So the statement is, I love thee to the level of each day's most quiet need by sun and candlelight. Or T.S. Eliot's superbly contained interpretation of Christmas in common. So expression of thoughts and feelings. So expressive function, it is mostly seen in poetry and literature, and it is among the best examples. But much of, perhaps most of, ordinary language also, or ordinary language discourse is the expression of emotions, feelings, or attitudes. We also have two main aspects of this function, and it is generally noted are as evoking certain feelings and expressing feelings. And for expressive discourse, qua expressive discourse, it is best regarded as neither true nor false as well. So, but it is not only in poetry that this function is seen. In common explanations like, oh no, right? Look out, boy, aha, are expressions of different moods and they are far from poetic. Whether poetry or everyday talk, however, we can hardly ask if it is true or false. According also to Irving M. Copy, expressive discourse is used either to express the speaker's feelings or to evoke certain feelings on the part of the author. Of course, it may do both. And for this one, there are also some examples such as pep talks, political and oral oratical speeches, Sunday sermons, homilies, and cheering of basketball fans that may be cited as examples of the evocative component of expressive language. So another fundamental use of language that we have is directive, and this function of language is most easily seen in commands and requests. And mainly, the directive function is most commonly found in command and request, and it is not normally considered true or false, although various logics of commands have been developed. And examples of these functions are statements such as close the windows and you're smoking in a non-smoking area. Although it is in declarative form, it can be used to mean do not smoke in this area. We also have other examples such as write me a line when you reach in California. Also, Emmy, please sing Nasaan Ka Irog. And don't use the car unnecessarily. If you would notice, most of the statements or sentences are in a command and in request form. So one cannot speak of each of these as either true or false. Whether the command or request is obeyed or not is irrelevant to its truth value, which if non-existent in the first place. We have here examples of language functions. We have informative, expressive, and directive. For informative, we have this statement, logic is the study of correct reasoning. For expressive, we have ouch. For directive, we have shut the door. So these are some of the examples of language function. Now, I will show you some videos showing informative, expressive, and directive use of language. The first video that I will show you is an type of informative type of video that shows information and informative use of language. So the video that I will show you is a video that shows an informative use of language.
Every spring, hundreds of adventure seekers dream of climbing Chomolungma, also known as Mount Everest. At base camp, they hunker down for months, waiting for the chance to scale the mountain's lofty, lethal peak. But why do people risk life and limb to climb Everest? Is it the challenge, the view, the chance to touch the sky? For many, the draw is Everest's status as the highest mountain on Earth. There's an important distinction to make here. Mauna Kea is actually the tallest from base to summit, but at 8,850 meters above sea level, Everest has the highest altitude on the planet. To understand how this towering formation was born, we have to peer deep into our planet's crust, where continental plates collide. The Earth's surface is like an armadillo's armor. Pieces of crust constantly move over, under, and around each other. For such huge continental plates, the motion is relatively quick. They move 2 to 4 centimeters per year, about as fast as fingernails grow. When two plates collide, one pushes into or underneath the other, buckling at the margins and causing what's known as uplift to accommodate the extra crust. That's how Everest came about. 50 million years ago, the Earth's Indian plate drifted north, bumped into the bigger Eurasian plate, and the crust crumpled, creating huge uplift. Mount Everest lies at the heart of this action, on the edge of the Indian-Eurasian collision zone. But mountains are shaped by forces other than uplift. As the land is pushed up, air masses are forced to rise as well. Rising air cools, causing any water vapor within it to condense and form rain or snow. As that falls, it wears down the landscape, dissolving rocks or breaking them down in a process known as weathering. Water moving downhill carries the weathered material and erodes the landscape, carving out deep valleys and jagged peaks. This balance between uplift and erosion gives a mountain its shape. But compare the celestial peaks of the Himalayas to the comforting hills of Appalachia. Clearly, all mountains are not alike. That's because time comes into the equation too. When continental plates first collide, uplift happens fast. The peaks grow tall with steep slopes. Over time, however, gravity and water wear them down. Eventually, erosion overtakes uplift, wearing down peaks faster than they're pushed up. A third factor shapes mountains: climate. In sub-zero temperatures, some snowfall doesn't completely melt away, instead slowly compacting until it becomes ice. That forms the snow line, which occurs at different heights around the planet, depending on climate. At the freezing poles, the snow line is at sea level. Near the equator, you have to climb 5 kilometers before it gets cold enough for ice to form. Gathered ice starts flowing under its own immense weight, forming a slow-moving frozen river known as a glacier, which grinds the rocks below. The steeper the mountains, the faster ice flows, and the quicker it carves the underlying rock. Glaciers can erode landscapes swifter than rain and rivers. Where glaciers cling to mountain peaks, they sand them down so fast they lop the tops off, like giant snowy buzzsaws. So then, how did the icy Mount Everest come to be so tall? The cataclysmic continental clash from which it arose made it huge to begin with. Secondly, the mountain lies near the tropics, so the snow line is high and the glaciers relatively small, barely big enough to whittle it down. The mountain exists in a perfect storm of conditions that maintain its impressive stature. But that won't always be the case. We live in a changing world where the continental plates, Earth's climate, and the planet's erosive power might one day conspire to cut Mount Everest down to size. For now, at least, it remains legendary in the minds of hikers, adventurers, and dreamers alike.
So we have seen a video that shows informative use of language, and it is a lesson by Michelle Cops. You could find this on YouTube. So you just type "Why is Mount Everest also" by Michelle Cops. So we have seen that in this informative use of language, in logic we see this function at work and in propositions and arguments where something is affirmed or denied, and this in turn is either true or false, correct or incorrect. But on this video, we have seen that it is mainly facts and it is based on facts as well, and it gives information. Now, the second video that I will show you is an expressive use of language.
Oh yes! Kaibigan mo ako! Kaibigan mo lang ako. And I'm so stupid to make the biggest mistake of falling in love with my best friend. Lahat ng nagmamahal nagpapakatanga. Kaya tanga na kong tanga pero mahal kita! Mahal kita, gago ka! Ang manhid mo, mahal kita! Bakit ikaw pa? Bakit ikaw pa?
I deserved an explanation. I deserved an acceptable reason. Jenny, mahal kita.
Mahal mo ba ako dahil kailangan mo ko? O kailangan mo ko kaya mahal mo ko?
You're absolutely right. Yan lang ang tingin mo sa akin. Tiga-handa ng isusuot mo, ng kakainin mo, tiga-ayos sa bahay mo, taga-salo sa mga problema mo. I was never your partner. I'm just your wife. Kaya hindi mo ako nirirespeto.
Wala akong ginagawang masama! Akala mo lang wala! Pero meron!
Nagustuhan mo ba? Sinira mo ang kanta. Binaboy mo. Baliw ang nagsasabing isinilang na ang aking karibal. You'll never make it. You're nothing but a second-rate Trying hard. Copycat. Larry, Libby, tayo na.
Sinamantala niyo lahat ang kahinaan ko!
Hindi, magbabagong taon na.
Hindi! Walang bagong taon! Wala sa pamilyang to magbabago!
Dahil nandito siya!
Kung nandyan siya, nasan ako? Anong lugar naming mga gustong magmahal sa'yo?
Kung nasaktan kita, sampalin mo ko, gantihan mo ko. Tatanggap ko lahat dahil kaibigan mo ko.
Oh yes! Kaibigan mo ako! Kaibigan mo lang ako. And I'm so stupid to make the biggest mistake of falling in love with my best friend.
She loved me at my worst. You had me at my best. At pinali mo naman ang lahat yun.
So these are some expressive uses of language or examples of expressive languages. So as you can see, there are emotions and attitudes expressed beautifully and in their own way, and they used it to express their own feelings or to evoke certain feelings on the part of the speaker. So from these videos that I have shown you, or top 10 video hugot lines, which one was your favorite? Mine was the you're nothing but a second grade trying hard copycat. It was delivered beautifully, and the emotion was there, and the attitude as well. So another video that I will be showing you is the directive use of language.
대학이랑 그러면 연결해 볼 수 있을 것 같아.
Imelda, bumili ka nga mo ng suka diyan sa tindahan. Isang bote? Aba hindi, yung kuwan laang. Nasa pack. Ay sige, andali lang. Noun is a word. Noun is a word that refers. Mariam! Mariam! Bakit? Bumili ka daw ng suka, sabi ni nanay. Isa laang yung nasa pack.
You have been slain.
Imelda, bumili ka nga rin palang langis at makapagperito ng isda. Kalahating pilsin laang. Oo, sige. Bilisan mo at mainit na itong kawali Noun is a words that refer. Noun is a words that refer to. Bakit? Tawag na lang ang tawag. Nagano ka baga? At parang kayo naimik din mag-isa. Ako man din nagre-review at kami may recitation bukas. Ay bumili ka din daw ng langis, sabi ni nanay. At siya daw ay magpiperito, kalahating pilsin lang. Ako na ang bumili ng suka kanina. Imelda, laang ka na. Oo, pwede na. Bumili ka na nga at siya na nagdudumali.
You have been slain.
Imelda, bitsin pala. Bumili ka din. Noun is a word that refer. Noun is a word that refer. Ano na naman? Utos na naman ang utos. Ikaw man din ang inuutosan ni nanay. Huwag ka na magreklamo. Bumili ka na lang. Isang bitsin daw. Kung napapagod na. Ako pati nagre-review. Ako din na dito matapos-tapos. Noun is a words that refer to Mariam. Bumili ka na. Bahala ka diyan.
Victory!
Aba. Ay, nasaan na yung pinapabili ko ay wala na daw pala. Ubus na. Yak, ananay. Kahambugan na yan. Hindi pa nalabas. At kada utos may utos din sa akin. Hindi maiwan-iwanan yung pinapanood niya kanina pa. Kala mo na may kanyang naiintindihan. Siya ko siyang porkete. Ay bakit ka naman nanay ikay pa isa-isa din ang ipinabibili? Di mo sabay-sabayin. Ay di sana isang beses ko lang din siyang inutusan. Yaka kayo pati wag maingay at ako'y nanonood. Bay, anyo nga sa'yo. 뭐야, 그래? 정권발 아빠야, 셀들이. 자, 그래.
So that is an example of a directive use of language. So we could see that in the video there are requests and commands asked by the mother and the sister as well to her sister. So these are some of the videos. Now let's go back to the lesson. For this week, we have activities. So on your PDF files or on your printed handouts, we have 2 activities, but I will only require you to answer activity 1, which is identification. So identify what language functions are applied in the following passages. Again, we have 3 fundamental uses of language. These are informative, expressive, and directive. You may choose from those 3 and you may write your answers and submit it to me. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. You may reach me through Facebook Messenger, or you may directly ask me at school. And for this week, we have some references: Introduction to Logic and this Institutional Logic and Logic from Siak College. And we also have some suggested readings: Introduction to Logic by Cruz C. So for this week, we have differentiate the uses of language, and we also compare and contrast the uses of language. So before ending this lesson, I would like to say thank you and share a Bible verse from the verse of Mark, chapter 9, verse 23. Said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. So thank you once again, everyone, and God bless.